It was a warm afternoon when the young girl decided to take her usual walk near the private airstrip at the edge of the city. She often wandered there after school, not because she had anything to do with planes, but because she loved watching the sleek aircraft take off and land. The sunlight reflected off the polished surfaces, and the sound of engines always gave her a little thrill. She liked the calmness of the place, the feeling that the world was moving fast, yet here, she could pause and observe quietly. That day felt different. As she approached the runway, something unusual caught her eye. She noticed a man moving strangely around one of the private planes. At first, she thought he was a mechanic, but something about his actions seemed off. He wasn't wearing the uniform the other workers wore. His movements were quick and secretive, like he didn't want anyone to see what he was doing. Her heart started to beat faster. She couldn't exactly explain why, but she had an instinct that something was very wrong. She kept her distance, trying to watch without being noticed. She saw him bend down near the landing gear, fiddling with something. Her stomach turned. She had read about accidents, about how even small mistakes could lead to disaster, but this didn't look like a mistake. Her mind raced with possibilities. Could he be trying to damage the plane? Could someone be in danger? She realized that the person about to board this plane could be hurt, maybe even killed if she didn't act fast. The young girl knew she had to do something, but she felt a wave of fear. She was just a teenager, standing alone near a large private airstrip, confronting a man she didn't know. But the more she thought, the more she understood that she had no choice. People might call her crazy if she was wrong, but what if she was right? She had to speak up. She ran towards the nearest security officer she could see, but the man seemed to notice her approach. He froze for a moment, glanced around nervously, and then continued his work. Panic surged through her. She realized that getting someone else involved might not be fast enough. She had to do something immediately. Her eyes darted around, looking for the owner of the plane. The millionaire who owned it was known in the city, a man famous for his business success and his private flights. He was usually very careful, but no amount of caution could protect him if someone had sabotaged his aircraft. She shouted with all her strength, hoping he would hear her. "Your plane was sabotaged!" Her voice rang across the airstrip, startling everyone nearby. The words hung in the air for a moment. Workers stopped what they were doing. Some looked confused, and the man near the plane froze. The girl's heart pounded so loudly she was sure the entire airstrip could hear it. She didn't know if anyone understood the gravity of what she had said, but she couldn't stop now. She repeated the warning, trying to make it as loud and clear as possible. Her voice echoed against the metal structures and the tarmac. People began to react. Security officers ran towards the plane, shouting instructions to clear the area. Other workers gathered, trying to understand what had happened. The young girl stayed in place, her eyes fixed on the suspicious man. He tried to run, but officers quickly stopped him. She realized that she had done it. She had prevented a potential disaster. The weight of the situation hit her slowly. She had never imagined that a regular afternoon walk could lead to such a dramatic moment. The millionaire, alerted by the commotion, arrived at the scene. His car had just pulled up when he saw his plane surrounded by security personnel. He noticed the girl standing there, her small frame tense, her eyes wide but determined. He walked over, curious and slightly concerned. The girl pointed towards the man who had been tampering with the aircraft. "He was trying to sabotage your plane," she said simply, her voice steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. The millionaire looked at the man in disbelief. He had never seen this girl before, yet here she was, giving a warning that could have saved his life. Security officers escorted the suspicious man away, confirming that he had indeed tampered with the plane's landing gear. The realization hit him fully. If she hadn't shouted, he could have been in serious danger. His mind raced, thinking of how narrowly disaster had been avoided. He turned back to the girl, searching for words. Most people would have been scared, hiding or running away. She had acted quickly, decisively, and with incredible courage. He didn't know her name yet, but he already felt a deep sense of gratitude. "You saved my life," he said simply. The girl nodded, feeling a mix of relief and pride. She hadn't expected recognition, but it was hard not to feel the weight of what had just happened. The scene around them slowly began to settle. Workers returned to their routines, but there was a sense of awe in the air. They had witnessed something extraordinary. The young girl's quick thinking and bravery had prevented a tragedy. She became the center of attention, though she remained calm, quietly observing as the millionaire inspected his plane to ensure everything was safe. Later, when the crowd had dispersed and the airstrip returned to normal, the millionaire stayed behind. He wanted to speak to her more, to understand how she had noticed the danger so quickly. He found her sitting on a nearby bench, catching her breath. She looked up as he approached, still a little nervous but also proud of what she had done. He asked her questions about what she had seen and how she had realized something was wrong. She explained in detail, recounting the small clues she had noticed, the way the man moved and the way her instincts told her something was amiss. He listened carefully, impressed by her observation skills and her courage. She wasn't just brave. She was smart and aware, qualities that were rare for someone her age. The millionaire felt a deep sense of respect for the girl. In a world where many people might ignore warning signs or hesitate to act, she had taken immediate action. Her bravery had not only saved his life, but also reminded him of the importance of paying attention to small details and trusting instincts. He realized that sometimes courage doesn't come from experience or strength. It comes from caring and acting without hesitation. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the airstrip, the girl felt a sense of fulfillment. She had done the right thing, and it mattered. She hadn't thought about fame or recognition. She had only thought about preventing harm. Now she understood that even one person's actions could have a huge impact. She had made a difference, and that thought stayed with her as she walked home, her steps light despite the weight of the day's events. That evening, the millionaire returned to his office, still thinking about the girl who had shouted the warning. He wanted to meet her properly, to thank her again, and perhaps to learn from her perspective. He knew that her actions had been extraordinary, and he didn't want to let the opportunity to connect with such courage pass. The incident had started as a terrifying moment but ended with gratitude and admiration, and he was determined to show her that her bravery would not be forgotten. The young girl, meanwhile, returned to her normal routine, but the memory of the afternoon stayed with her. She had learned something important about herself, that courage is not about size or age, but about willingness to act when it matters most. She felt a newfound confidence, knowing that even in ordinary life, extraordinary things could happen. And she also knew that sometimes, listening to your instincts could make all the difference between life and death. Her story, though just beginning, had already left a mark on the city and on the life of a man who had never expected to owe his safety to a stranger. It was a reminder that heroism can come from the most unexpected places, and that ordinary people, even young girls, can make an extraordinary impact when they choose to act. The airstrip, once just a quiet place for watching planes, had become a place of life-changing courage, a moment that would never be forgotten. The young girl had barely returned home when the news of her brave action started spreading. She had acted without thinking about the consequences, and now her courage was becoming a story in the city. People talked about how she had noticed something no one else had, and had shouted a warning loud enough to save a millionaire's life. Social media buzzed with her story, and local news reporters tried to reach her family for interviews. Her parents were both proud and worried. They had always encouraged her to be observant and brave, but seeing the whole city talk about it was overwhelming. Meanwhile, the millionaire, usually a very private and cautious man, was deeply moved by what had happened. He had been in dangerous situations before, but he had never experienced someone acting with such clear awareness and selflessness at the exact right moment. He kept replaying the incident in his mind, the girl's voice cutting through the usual noise of the airstrip, the way she had pointed directly at the man tampering with his plane, and the calm but determined way she stood her ground. For a man used to solving problems with money or strategy, this was a new kind of admiration. Here was someone young without any obligation to him, who had stepped in when it mattered most. He realized that courage, instinct, and quick thinking were far more valuable than any training or security system he could put in place. He wanted to meet her properly, not just to thank her, but to understand how she had been able to notice the danger so clearly. The millionaire contacted his assistant and requested a meeting with the girl. He didn't want anything formal or intimidating. He wanted her to feel comfortable and safe. When the assistant called the girl's home to explain, she was nervous but also excited. She had never imagined meeting someone so influential, and the thought of speaking with him directly made her heart race. Her parents encouraged her, reminding her that he owed his life to her bravery and that this could be an opportunity to learn and grow. The day of the meeting arrived. The girl wore her usual simple clothes, trying to appear confident, even though she was nervous inside. When they arrived at the millionaire's office, she was struck by the size and simplicity of the space. It was filled with awards, gadgets, and photographs, but nothing felt pretentious. It was a space designed for thinking, working, and creating. She could feel the energy of someone who had built a life from nothing, someone who had worked hard to achieve success. The millionaire welcomed her warmly. He didn't want to make her feel small or intimidated. He sat across from her, listening as she recounted the events at the airstrip. She described what she had seen in detail, the man's strange movements, the way he tried to hide his actions, and how her instincts had told her that something was wrong. She spoke calmly and clearly, without exaggeration, and he listened intently, asking questions that showed he valued her observation and insight. As she spoke, he realized that her courage came from more than just fearlessness. It came from careful observation and a sense of responsibility. She had acted not out of impulse but out of understanding. He asked how she knew to act quickly, and she explained that she always paid attention to her surroundings and trusted her instincts. She didn't wait for someone else to notice. She acted immediately. He nodded, impressed. In his world of calculated decisions, her instincts were something extraordinary. The conversation gradually shifted from the incident itself to her life, her school, and her interests. The millionaire wanted to know more about her perspective, what she cared about, and what inspired her. She spoke about her curiosity, her love for learning, and her desire to make a difference in the world. He was fascinated by her clarity and her honesty. There was a spark in her eyes that reminded him of his younger self, a mix of determination and curiosity that had driven him to achieve success. He realized that moments like these were rare. He often met people who were talented, rich, or clever, but few had the combination of intelligence, courage, and moral clarity that this girl displayed. He felt a deep sense of respect for her and decided that her potential should be nurtured. He wanted to do more than just thank her. He wanted to help her grow, to provide opportunities that could shape her future in meaningful ways. As the meeting continued, he began to discuss ideas about mentorship. He explained how important it was to recognize opportunities and to act with integrity. He shared some stories from his own life, times when careful observation and quick thinking had made a difference, and times when hesitation had led to mistakes. The girl listened closely, absorbing every word. Realizing that this was a chance to learn from someone with experience and wisdom she could not find elsewhere. They talked for hours, but the conversation never felt forced or formal. It was natural and engaging, filled with curiosity and learning. The millionaire asked questions about her thoughts on responsibility, courage, and ethics. She shared examples from her life, showing that even small acts of honesty and bravery could have a meaningful impact. He smiled, realizing that this young girl had a depth of understanding that many adults lacked. The meeting also included discussions about practical skills. He explained the importance of awareness, attention to detail, and problem-solving in real-life situations. He encouraged her to practice observation, to trust her instincts, and to always consider the consequences of her actions. She listened intently, understanding that these lessons could help her in everyday life, not just in extraordinary situations. By the end of the day, the millionaire had made a decision. He wanted to provide her with guidance, mentorship, and access to experiences that could help her develop her talents. He knew that her bravery at the airstrip was just the beginning, and that she had the potential to make a positive impact in the world. He also wanted her to understand that courage was not about seeking recognition, but about doing the right thing, even when no one was watching. The girl left the meeting with a mixture of excitement and humility. She realized that her life had changed in a single afternoon. She had gone from being a regular teenager walking near an airstrip to someone who had been recognized by a successful and influential person. The experience showed her the power of action, observation, and courage. It also taught her that people who make a difference are not always those with money or status, but those who act decisively when it matters most. As she walked home that evening, the girl thought about everything she had learned. She understood that the world was full of opportunities and challenges, and that being observant, brave, and responsible could open doors she had never imagined. The meeting with the millionaire had shown her that one moment of courage could lead to lasting relationships and opportunities that could shape her future. The city buzzed with her story for days afterward. People praised her bravery, but she remained humble, knowing that anyone in her place might have acted similarly. What mattered most to her was that she had prevented a tragedy and had learned valuable lessons about courage, awareness, and responsibility. She also understood that her actions had inspired someone influential to invest in her future, a thought that filled her with hope and determination. The millionaire, on his part, reflected on the encounter as well. He realized that heroes can come in unexpected forms and that wisdom and courage often reside in the most surprising places. He decided to maintain contact with the girl, to offer mentorship and guidance, and to ensure that her talents and bravery were nurtured. He saw in her the qualities that he had valued throughout his life: intelligence, courage, and moral clarity. Their connection, born out of an extraordinary moment at the airstrip, was becoming the start of a meaningful relationship. One afternoon's courage had led to mentorship, opportunity, and mutual respect. Both the girl and the millionaire understood that life could change in unexpected ways, and that even small actions, when taken with clarity and bravery, could have profound consequences. The story of her warning and the subsequent meeting became a lesson for everyone around them, showing how awareness, courage, and quick thinking could transform lives in ways no one could predict. The following week, the girl received another invitation from the millionaire. This time, it was to visit his office and meet more of the people who helped run his company. She felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness as she prepared for the day. Her parents encouraged her to be herself, to listen and to learn, reminding her that this was an opportunity few could ever imagine having. When she arrived, the building itself was impressive, but not in a showy way. It was large, sleek, and modern, filled with light and open spaces. Employees moved quickly, working on computers, talking in small groups, and reviewing documents. The girl felt a little overwhelmed at first, but she also felt curious and inspired. She was eager to see how the place functioned and to understand the man whose life she had saved. The millionaire met her in the lobby and welcomed her warmly. He wanted to make sure she felt comfortable and not intimidated. They began walking through the building together, and he introduced her to his team. She was surprised by how approachable everyone was. People smiled, shook her hand, and asked how she was doing. The atmosphere was busy but friendly, and it made her feel included despite her young age. They entered a large room where a few employees were discussing a project. The millionaire explained what they were doing, using simple language so she could understand. She listened closely, asking questions about the work, the ideas, and the goals of the company. The team was impressed by her curiosity and the way she asked thoughtful questions. They realized she was not just brave, but also intelligent and observant, capable of understanding complex situations. As they walked further, the millionaire began sharing some of the challenges he faced in running the company. He spoke about decisions that were not easy, risks that had to be taken, and the importance of paying attention to details. The girl was fascinated. She could see that success wasn't just about money or luck. It was about careful thought, observation, and action. She realized that the skills she had used to notice the danger at the airstrip could be valuable in many other parts of life. At lunch, they sat in a small cafeteria with a few employees. The girl was offered food but preferred to listen and learn. The millionaire asked her more questions about herself, her school, and her interests. She shared her love for learning, her curiosity about the world, and her desire to help others. He nodded, seeing that her values aligned with what he thought was important: honesty, courage, and responsibility. He was impressed that someone so young could have such clear principles. After lunch, he took her to a part of the company where new ideas were developed. Employees were working on technology, safety measures, and projects that could help people in many ways. The girl's eyes widened as she saw the creativity and effort behind every small action. She realized that observing carefully, thinking critically, and acting decisively were skills that could help her in any situation, just like they had at the airstrip. The millionaire encouraged her to try some of the activities herself. He gave her small tasks, letting her observe, analyze, and suggest solutions. She felt nervous but determined. As she worked through the challenges, she discovered that her instincts and attention to detail were useful beyond emergencies. She began to feel confident in her ability to contribute and learned that courage also meant being willing to try new things. During the afternoon, the conversation shifted to personal growth. The millionaire shared stories from his own life, about times when mistakes had taught him valuable lessons and times when courage had made a difference. He explained that learning from experiences, both good and bad, was essential for success. The girl listened intently, feeling that she was gaining knowledge that could shape her future in important ways. He also spoke about responsibility. He explained that people who act decisively and courageously often have a duty to continue doing good in the world. The girl thought about her actions at the airstrip and understood that her choices could have a lasting effect. She realized that courage and responsibility were connected. One without the other was incomplete. The millionaire then asked her opinion about some current projects, wanting to hear her perspective. She offered suggestions based on what she had observed and thought through. Her answers were thoughtful and insightful, showing that she could think clearly under pressure. He smiled, impressed that her abilities went beyond bravery. She had intelligence, creativity, and critical thinking skills. He realized that nurturing these qualities could make her even more capable in the future. Later, they walked through the office again, and he showed her a part of the building dedicated to safety and emergency planning. She was fascinated by the measures they took to prevent accidents and protect people. He explained the importance of vigilance and foresight, drawing parallels to her experience at the airstrip. The girl felt a sense of pride, understanding that her own careful observation and quick thinking were similar to the skills professionals use to keep others safe. As the day came to an end, the millionaire invited her to spend more time in the future, learning about the company and its projects. He wanted her to understand the importance of observation, responsibility, and courage, not just in emergencies but in everyday life. The girl felt excited and grateful. She realized that this experience had opened doors she had never imagined, and that her bravery had led to opportunities for growth and learning. On the way home, she reflected on the day. She thought about how much she had learned, not only about the business world but also about human character, responsibility, and courage. She realized that her life was changing in small but significant ways. She had been recognized for her bravery, but more importantly, she was learning skills and values that could help her face any challenge in the future. That evening, she shared her experiences with her family. Her parents were amazed at how much she had learned and how confident she had become. They encouraged her to continue observing, learning, and acting with courage. The girl felt a deep sense of purpose, knowing that her actions could make a difference and that she had mentors who could guide her along the way. The millionaire, back in his office, reflected on the day as well. He realized that mentoring the girl was not only about teaching her skills, but also about learning from her perspective. Her courage and insight reminded him of the importance of staying alert, thinking carefully, and appreciating the contributions of people at every level. He felt a growing respect for her, and knew that their relationship could have a lasting impact on both of their lives. As days passed, the girl continued to visit the company, learning and observing. Each visit taught her something new, from teamwork and problem-solving to leadership and ethics. She began to see herself not just as a young observer, but as someone capable of making thoughtful decisions and contributing to meaningful work. The skills she had used to save a life at the airstrip were becoming tools she could use in all areas of her life. Her story became known in the city, but she remained humble. She understood that courage was not about recognition or fame, but about acting responsibly when it mattered most. She also realized that her experience with the millionaire had taught her lessons far beyond what she had expected. It had shown her that bravery, intelligence, and ethical action could open doors and create opportunities she never imagined. The day's experiences stayed with her, shaping her understanding of the world and her place in it. She had learned that observation, courage, and careful thinking were essential for success and safety. She also learned that mentorship and guidance could transform potential into meaningful action. She felt grateful, inspired, and ready to continue learning, knowing that her choices could make a difference in both her life and the lives of others. Weeks had passed since the young girl had first saved the millionaire's life, and her visits to his company had become part of her routine. Each time she arrived, she learned something new. She watched how the team worked together, how decisions were made, and how challenges were solved. She realized that courage and quick thinking were just part of what made someone capable. Knowledge, observation, and planning were equally important. One afternoon, the millionaire invited her to a special meeting with his senior team. This was different from her previous visits. She was now being included in discussions about real projects and strategies. At first, she felt nervous, unsure if she could contribute, but she remembered the confidence she had felt at the airstrip. She knew that paying attention and speaking up could make a difference. She entered the room, greeted everyone politely, and listened carefully as the discussions began. The team was discussing a new safety project that could prevent accidents in various industries. The millionaire turned to her and asked for her thoughts. She observed quietly for a moment, then spoke clearly, pointing out small details that could improve the plan. The adults around her were impressed. Her suggestions were simple yet practical, showing that she could think critically and contribute meaningfully. The millionaire smiled, proud of her courage and insight. As the meeting continued, he explained the importance of thinking ahead and preparing for unexpected situations. He told her that being able to anticipate problems was just as valuable as reacting quickly when they happened. She listened closely, realizing that this was exactly what she had done at the airstrip. Her instincts had guided her, but now she was learning how to combine instinct with knowledge and preparation. After the meeting, they walked through the building together. The millionaire showed her departments she hadn't visited before: research, safety training, and planning. She saw how every part of the company was connected and how every decision affected the bigger picture. She began to understand that her courage at the airstrip had been important, but her ability to learn, observe, and understand the situation had been equally critical. He invited her to participate in a small project. She would work with a team to analyze potential risks in everyday situations and propose solutions. The girl felt a mix of excitement and responsibility. She understood that this was more than just learning. It was a chance to apply what she had already experienced in a practical way. She approached the task with focus, observing details, asking questions, and thinking critically about each step. Throughout the project, the millionaire guided her, but allowed her to think independently. He encouraged her to make suggestions, test ideas, and learn from mistakes. She realized that responsibility and courage were ongoing, not just one-time actions. Each choice she made could influence outcomes, and she had to consider consequences carefully. The experience was both challenging and rewarding, showing her the importance of persistence, attention, and ethical action. One afternoon, she noticed something unusual in a safety report. A small detail suggested a potential problem in one of the systems. She pointed it out to the team. They investigated and discovered that she was right. A minor issue that could have caused bigger problems had gone unnoticed. The team praised her observation and quick thinking. The millionaire was especially impressed, noting that her alertness and confidence were growing stronger with each experience. As weeks turned into months, the girl's visits became more than just learning experiences. They became a partnership. She began to understand the responsibilities that came with courage and intelligence. She also realized that helping others required patience, observation, and careful decision-making. Her actions at the airstrip had started this journey, but her continued growth was shaping her into someone capable of making real, positive changes in the world. The millionaire also reflected on their relationship. He realized that mentoring the girl was not only about teaching her skills, but also about recognizing and valuing courage and integrity. Her actions had reminded him of the importance of staying aware, making careful decisions, and appreciating the contributions of others. He saw that her character and intelligence could influence the people around her, inspiring teamwork, responsibility, and ethical action. The girl began keeping a small journal, writing down observations, questions, and ideas from her experiences. She reflected on what she had learned, how she could improve, and how she could apply her skills to help others. This practice helped her develop clarity, focus, and confidence. She realized that learning and observation were lifelong skills, and that courage without understanding could only go so far. Her combination of bravery, intelligence, and ethical awareness was becoming her strongest asset. During one visit, the millionaire asked her to help prepare a presentation for a community safety program. The girl worked diligently, researching, organizing ideas, and practicing how to explain them clearly. When the day came to present, she spoke confidently to a group of adults and children, sharing lessons about awareness, quick thinking, and responsibility. Her message was simple yet powerful. Paying attention, trusting instincts, and acting responsibly could make a difference in everyday life. The community event was a success, and the girl felt proud. She realized that her experiences at the airstrip and in the company had prepared her for this moment. She had learned that courage was not just about reacting in emergencies, but also about guiding and inspiring others to act responsibly. The experience reinforced her sense of purpose and her desire to continue learning and helping wherever she could. As she walked home that evening, she thought about how much her life had changed. She had gone from a regular teenager observing planes at an airstrip to someone actively contributing to projects, guiding others, and learning from a successful mentor. She understood that courage and quick thinking had opened doors, but it was curiosity, observation, and responsibility that allowed her to walk through them confidently. The millionaire continued to mentor her, offering guidance, sharing experiences, and encouraging her to take on challenges. Their relationship was based on mutual respect and trust. He admired her bravery and intelligence, while she valued his wisdom and insight. Together, they worked on projects that emphasized safety, awareness, and ethical responsibility, reinforcing the lessons she had learned since that fateful day at the airstrip. Over time, the girl's influence grew. Her observations and ideas were respected by the team, and she became a source of inspiration for other young people in the community. She realized that even small actions, when combined with courage, intelligence, and ethical thinking, could create meaningful change. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that her bravery had led to ongoing learning, growth, and impact. The story of the girl and the millionaire became well known in the city. People admired her courage, intelligence, and humility. She remained grounded, understanding that recognition was not the goal but rather the opportunity to learn, grow, and help others. She continued to visit the company, engage in projects, and develop her skills, knowing that her journey had only just begun. In quiet moments, she reflected on the journey from the airstrip to the company. She realized that bravery was just the first step. Observation, responsibility, and ethical action were equally important. She had learned that one moment of courage could open a path to learning, mentorship, and meaningful contribution. Her life had changed dramatically, and she knew that she was ready to face whatever challenges came next with clarity, courage, and determination. Months had passed since the young girl first shouted the warning that saved the millionaire's life. The events had left a lasting impact on both of them. The girl had grown more confident, observant, and responsible, while the millionaire had come to admire her courage, insight, and humility. Their bond was not just about gratitude, but about learning, guidance, and mutual respect. The girl continued her visits to the company, taking on projects, observing, and contributing her ideas. Her ability to notice small details and think critically became more refined. She understood that bravery alone was not enough. She needed knowledge, patience, and ethical decision-making to create meaningful results. She reflected on her journey and realized how much she had changed since that day at the airstrip. She felt proud but never boastful, knowing that her actions were about responsibility rather than recognition. One afternoon, the millionaire invited her to attend a large public event that focused on safety and community awareness. She had participated in smaller initiatives before, but this was her first major presentation in front of a large audience. She felt nervous, but she reminded herself of the day she had acted at the airstrip. The courage she had shown then was still inside her, and she knew she could draw on it again. At the event, she spoke about observation, awareness, and quick thinking. She shared simple examples that everyone could understand, emphasizing that ordinary people could make extraordinary differences by paying attention and acting responsibly. Her speech was clear, heartfelt, and inspiring. People listened attentively, impressed by her insight and maturity. The millionaire watched proudly from the audience, seeing how the girl had grown into a capable and confident individual who could influence and educate others. After the event, many attendees came to speak with her. Some were adults who wanted to understand how they could apply her lessons in their own lives, while others were young people who felt inspired by her story. She answered questions patiently, always emphasizing the importance of responsibility, careful observation, and courage. Her humility made her message even more powerful, showing that heroism was not about fame, but about taking action when it mattered most. The millionaire took her aside after the event and praised her. He explained how rare it was to find someone so young who combined courage, intelligence, and integrity in such a meaningful way. He encouraged her to continue learning, to pursue her passions, and to share her experiences with others. She felt a deep sense of gratitude, knowing that his mentorship had given her confidence and opportunities to grow beyond what she had imagined. Over time, their collaboration continued to expand. The girl worked on new projects, helped develop community safety programs, and mentored other young people who wanted to make a difference. She became a role model in her community, demonstrating that ordinary individuals could have extraordinary impact through observation, courage, and ethical action. She also realized that her journey had taught her much more than practical skills. It had shown her how to approach life with responsibility, clarity, and purpose. The millionaire also benefited from their partnership. He was reminded of the importance of listening, observing, and valuing insights from people at all stages of life. The girl's perspective often helped him see situations differently, encouraging him to consider alternative approaches and solutions. Their relationship had evolved into a genuine connection based on trust, respect, and shared goals. It was no longer just about the day she saved his life. It had become about mutual growth and learning. One day they decided to start a program together to encourage young people to develop awareness, responsibility, and courage. They worked to create workshops, interactive sessions, and community activities that taught observation skills, decision-making, and ethical action. The girl's experience at the airstrip became a central story, illustrating the power of quick thinking and responsibility. She spoke to groups of children and teenagers, helping them understand that they could make a difference in their own lives and communities. As she continued to share her knowledge, she realized the ripple effect of her actions. One small act of courage had led to mentorship, learning opportunities, and the ability to influence many others. Her confidence grew, and she learned to trust her instincts even more. She understood that bravery was not a one-time event, but a habit of observing carefully, acting responsibly, and considering the consequences of every decision. The millionaire, watching her progress, often reflected on the day she had shouted the warning. That moment had saved his life, but it had also sparked a journey of growth for both of them. He saw how far she had come and how much potential she had for the future. He felt proud not only for what she had achieved, but also for the positive influence she was now spreading to others. Their bond had become a story of courage, mentorship, and lasting impact. As time went on, the girl's influence continued to expand. She remained humble, focusing on helping others and learning as much as she could. She began exploring new areas, from community leadership to safety innovation, always applying the lessons she had learned from the millionaire and from her own experiences. Each project reinforced her understanding that courage, intelligence, and ethical action were essential for making a meaningful difference. The community recognized her contributions, and she became a symbol of hope and inspiration. People admired her for her bravery, but more importantly, they respected her for her humility, intelligence, and courage.